What makes a warm home? Entry 13, bread. Over the last 2 years, I've taken up the challenge of learning to make sourdough bread. For those who've never ventured down this path, it's a skill that can be surprisingly tricky. While the process itself becomes simple over time, it demands a fair amount of trial and error to arrive at a satisfying final product. It all starts with the sourdough starter. After watching a few videos and reading articles online, I thought, how hard can this be? I mixed some flour from the cupboard with water and let it sit. Each day, I removed a portion of the starter and added more flour and water, repeating the process. In theory, after a few days to a week, the mixture should come alive, doubling in size after each feeding and forming a natural leaven for the bread. A week passed. My starter remained as flat as a doormat. I began troubleshooting. Eventually, I learned that I needed to use filtered water. Tap water, with its chlorine and other additives, was killing the very bacteria I was trying to cultivate. Once I made the switch, things started to improve. Excited, I moved on to baking my first loaves. I'm not too proud to admit they were disasters. Technically edible, sure, but dense as bricks. Hard to slice and chewy as a well done steak. Not exactly the rustic masterpiece I had envisioned. Still, I pressed on. I experimented with my starter, incorporating whole wheat flour and eventually shifting to a 50 fix mix of wheat and white. That brought some improvement, but the real breakthrough came when I ran out of my original white flour and went to buy more. At Costco, determined to commit to this new craft, I picked up a 20-pound bag of organic unbleached bread flour. It changed everything. Until that point, I had been using old, bleached all purpose flour, processed and long past its prime. With the new flour, my starter finally began to double, and sometimes even triple, after each feeding. The dough for my loaves held together beautifully. It was elastic, smooth, and strong, and I couldn't wait to bake with it. And when I did, the results were nothing short of magical. The crust crunched perfectly under the knife. The crumb was soft, airy, like biting into a warm cloud. Tender, comforting. I couldn't stop myself from eating slice after slice and marveling that four humble ingredients starter, flour, water, and salt could create something so delicious. Since that first success, I've baked countless loaves. I've branched out, experimenting with different types. Crusty boulets using the stretch and fold method, sandwich bread that needs kneading, braided loaves rolled into ropes. Each style brings its own challenges and lessons. And each time I master a new technique, I find myself eager to share it. Homemade bread has become one of my favorite gifts for friends and family on special occasions. There's nothing like the smell of a fresh loaf coming out of the oven. The warm notes of yeast and grain rise like a familiar hug, taking me back to childhood. To my mom in the kitchen, her hands dusted with flour. The process of learning has deepened my appreciation for the end result. I've come to love things that challenge me to grow. Sure, there are moments of frustration. Sometimes I have to start fresh with new ingredients, new techniques, or a new mindset. But in the end, working through the challenges, whether in bread making or in life, leads to something beautiful. Sometimes it's a golden, irresistible loaf. Other times it's an overflowing blessing, meant to nourish not only ourselves, but others as well. Start creating your warm home. Visit etsy.com/shop/warm home candles co. If you enjoy this audio journal, I would appreciate it if you hit subscribe or left a review. I will be publishing a new audio journal every week on Wednesday at noon on YouTube and Spotify. You can also find warm home brands and candles on Facebook and Instagram. And lastly, remember, a warm home isn't about the things in your home, but about the people who live there and the grace and peace God gives them every day. Thanks for listening.